Hello, and welcome to Pass the Hot Sauce, a Roswell podcast. I'm Lisa Abigail.
I'm LaRena Rose.
And I'm Aliza Ora. Today, we are coming to you with a mini-sode, so we're not talking about an episode of Roswell this week.
This week, we will be discussing the 20th anniversary of Roswell. The show premiered, as I'm sure we all know, on October 6th, 1999. And today, as we are airing this episode, it is October 8th, so we thought it would be a great time to discuss the 20th anniversary of the TV show and some of the impact that it's had on the last 20 years and what some of the actors are doing now.
So the most obvious impact is probably the reboot that is currently airing on the CW that's titled Roswell, New Mexico. And we are planning to cover that in our podcast after we get through the original 3-series run of Roswell. So I was looking at how the original series compares to the new one in terms of critical reception and ratings. And season 1 of the original series on Rotten Tomatoes has a 100% score from the audience and an 89% positive score from the critics, while the new series has a 66% positive audience score and 55% from the critics. So, not as good. The new series also generally has lower ratings, although both are overall pretty low rated shows.
I feel like I've been hearing great things about the new series. I haven't watched it yet, but I feel like I've heard a good reception from everyone I know who has watched it. So that's interesting to hear those scores.
Yeah,
I've
same.
So I've seen a lot of positive articles on it. It doesn't have a large viewership, but I think partly like the CW shows don't have that large of a viewership anyway.
Especially not as much as like the WB shows back then.
Yeah. And I mean, there's just more competition now.
Yeah, I was going to say there's so much competition for people's time and money now. There's so many more channels on TV, let alone all of the streaming options of TV. There's just so many more shows for people to watch that people have to make decisions about what they spend their time watching.
And
Right.
I feel like just the culture of like Wednesday night at 9 is the time for this, is much less so. Because it's all DVR and it's on Hulu and it's, you can always watch it somewhere else, that nobody's really watching them when they come out.
Yeah, I just watched the first season of Roswell, New Mexico on Netflix, so I did not help any of the ratings. Sorry.
Right.
So the Rotten Tomatoes critical consensus, which is essentially where they look through all of the ratings and say, okay, here's the general idea. For the original, they said it is surprisingly smart and just the right amount of weird. Roswell has a strong sense of self that sets it apart in a crowded genre. Whereas for the reboot, the consensus was Roswell, New Mexico admirably adds modern political context to its premise, but this reboot hews too closely to its predecessor to transcend the pitfalls of a redundant retread.
It also feels like the standards are just higher now. That people are just more critical.
Yeah, and
right?
I also think we've reached this point where it's like, geez Louise, man, everything's a reboot or a reimagining or a revival. And at a certain point, people are like, just can you write a new show? Can you please just come up with an original concept?
Yeah, or they're adaptations of books. Because I'm thinking about right now, I'm watching Handmaid's Tale, which, okay, it's not a reboot. And it's brilliant. It's made like a film. But yeah, it's from a book. It's not an original story.
Yeah, and I think all of us are excited about the His Dark Materials adaptation that's going to be starting on HBO. I love that book series, but again, that's now a retelling of a book. That's not a new concept. Even though I'm excited to see it, it's one of my favorite books, it's still not brand new content out there in the world.
Yeah, I feel like for a long time it was mostly movies, I feel like, that were doing that. That were making things like sequels and comic book movies with the superheroes, adaptations from comic books. And now that TV is getting, I don't know, it's like TV is in its heyday right now. I feel like now that's happening with TV. We're seeing all the reboots and stuff like we're talking about.
Yeah. So speaking of reboots or revivals, something that is not quite either of those, but is in that vein is Baron and Toluca, which was written by Mahandra Delfino and stars her and Brendan Fair. So far, we've only gotten a trailer for it. It's been around since 2016, so it's unclear whether this will actually get picked up. But in case you don't know about it, the overview, this is from their official website, is exes Jake Barron and Toluca Mendez find themselves reunited in a familiar part of New Mexico, much to the delight of one and the horror of the other. Forced together by unforeseen circumstances, they must remain there together to try and unravel a paranormal mystery threatening to kill them both. That is, if they don't kill each other first. Dun dun dun!
Yeah. I, for one, would definitely watch this if it gets picked up by a network or a streaming platform, because Maria and Michael were my favorite characters on Roswell. So I would gladly watch Brendan Fair and Mahandra Delfino do something else together again.
So the trailer for Barron and Toluca gave me a lot more insight into the episode 285 South, which will, our podcast episode on that will come out next week. So stay tuned. There are a lot of really cute little Easter eggs in this trailer, which you can find online. And so obviously, since they're playing different characters, this isn't a revival of Michael and Maria. But in case you didn't get Barron and Toluca, it's kind of an echo of Garen and DeLuca, their characters from the original. So it's very much a nod to that, but being its own thing. They refer to it as a spiritual successor to Roswell. And if, like LaRena, you want to see this, the hashtag they have is hashtag Netflix for BNT. They're trying to get it on Netflix. I think that the campaign lost a little bit of steam once the reboot was announced, but there's still a little activity online every once in a while, so you can join in on that.
Also, I should mention that I've seen Brendan Fair on Twitter being very specific that it's B+T, hashtag B+T. Like it's said out loud as B and T, but he was very specific that it's a plus sign and not an ampersand.
It sounds really fun. I hope that we get it. The pictures are also really cute. I would encourage everyone to go look at the website. We can link to that so that you can see it. It's a really fun little trailer.
And I know Mahandra Delfino has been working on the script recently. There was something on her Instagram story recently where she was working on the script or doing something with it, but it's still definitely something that they are working on and wanting to get picked up.
Yeah, it seems like they just need the funding, and it's really cute. So there's this HuffPost interview that they did in August of 2016 where they're talking about it, and essentially they say, like, Mahandra wrote this pilot. She had been working on it for a couple years, and, like, she finally got it to a place where she was happy with it. Hadn't talked to Brendan in a while, and out of the blue, got a phone call from him just being like, hey, what's up? Wouldn't it be fun if we worked together again? And she was like,
whoa.
Now that you mention it, I wrote this part for you. And so they got together, and like I said, I think they've only filmed the trailer, but it would be adorable to see them get to work together again.
How serendipitous that he called right then.
I feel like they had great chemistry on the TV show. So, yeah, I think it'd be fun to see them work together again.
And I love to know that after all these years, like, these actors are still friends and still reach out to each other.
Yeah, Katherine Heigl was a bridesmaid in Mahandra Delfino's wedding.
Oh my god!
Oh, that's so cute. Can we find pictures of that?
I think we can. And so Mahandra is married to the actor David Walton, and they're currently filming a movie together called Later Days. So be on the lookout for that coming up sometime soon.
Is that the one that they just started production of? Yeah, because I know they had moved to Maine. They were living in Maine, not for long, and then, picked up to move to Chicago, or I forget where.
Yeah,
somewhere where they're filming. Yeah.
But they're like remodeling their house in Maine,
right.
So they'll be back there. This is the age of Instagram. We know so much about these people's lives. But this is, I think, a good time we can talk about what everyone else is doing. So Shiri Appleby directed an episode of Roswell, New Mexico in the first season, and she's set to direct another episode in the second season. So she's been stepping behind the camera a little bit, which I believe she did on her show Unreal as well, which she was also acting on.
Yeah, she was the
main
main
she's
character.
She's also on the drugs episode of Drunk History.
Ooh, fun. That show is always fun. And weird and wonderful.
Yeah, Colin Hanks has appeared in several of those as well. So Jason Behr has not had any acting credits since 2012. He does still occasionally appear out in public because he's married to actress Katie Strickland, and she seems to still be acting. But he's sort of been out of the limelight for a while.
And he's not really on social media either, isn't that correct?
Right. Yes.
So he has either
he's not
chosen to, or for some reason has stepped out of the limelight altogether.
Yep. So we don't know anything about his home remodeling like we do about Alejandro Delfino's. Katherine Heigl, of course, has had probably the biggest career of anyone who was on the show. She just finished the show Suits, and she has an upcoming role in a project called Firefly Lane, for which she has shortish brown hair that she debuted on social media. It's very cute.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
Brendan Fair recently starred in a TV show called The Night Shift as a doctor. It lasted for, I think, 3 or 4 seasons, but I never heard about it, so
Me neither. What network was it on?
Yep, that's a question. I don't know.
I'll Google it.
Do networks matter anymore? I never know.
NBC.
Okay,
It was on,
there you go. It was a
NBC
network television
for 4
show
seasons.
for 4 seasons on NBC, but it has since ended.
It looks like it was a summer series because it premiered in May
interesting.
and it concluded in
Okay.
August. So
Okay.
yeah, so shorter season length summer content.
Funny fact I just found out is the production locations are 2: San Antonio, Texas, and Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Cool.
So he was back in New Mexico.
He was also in a movie several years back called Roswell FM, which had to do with aliens.
Oh,
so I
really?
think we should do a future mini-sode on that.
Definitely.
Sounds like a good plan.
And I am currently watching Winona Earp, also on Netflix, because I don't watch things when they air, but he has a little 4-episode arc in that, and it's cool. He looks and sounds really different than he did on Roswell, which is so interesting.
I was going to say, I don't remember him, so now I'm going to have to look up what episodes that was and rewatch.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, he has a nice little role there, and he looks great. But, like, I don't know if I hadn't seen guest starring Brendan Fair, if I would have picked out that it was him. He doesn't have the spiky hair anymore.
Darn it.
I know he's so unrecognizable without the spiky hair.
He's also been in several movies that I've never heard of. He has one coming up that's called Wonder, and it's with Tommy Lee Jones, Heather Graham, and Aaron Eckhart. So I think we'll probably hear about that one.
All right.
Yeah. William Sadler, of course, has had a long and varied career. He does a lot of voices on the show Our Cartoon President. He has a movie coming up called VFW, where he plays an older vet who is protecting a group of young kids from some street toughs. It sounds fun. It's gotten good reviews at festivals, so I don't know. We'll see. He also has a movie coming out called The Grudge, which is a reboot of the 2004 movie that starred Sarah Michelle Gellar and Jason Behr. And I think that's actually the movie that he met his wife on.
Oh.
So that's
He
cool.
also has a movie coming out called the new Bill and Ted movie.
I am familiar with that one. It's called Bill and Ted Face the Music, and he reprises his role as Death. Yeah, so he has a bunch of stuff coming up. He is working so much for a 70-year-old man.
And that was filmed in your home area, right?
Yes, Bill and Ted Face the Music was filmed in New Orleans, and I know a few people who worked on it, and I went to the wrap party, but sadly he was not there.
Bummer.
I know. Next time. Since he's in so many movies, I will hopefully have more opportunities to go see him.
Yes. Yeah, if you know people working in the industry in New Orleans, hopefully it's only a matter of time before he's in another movie in New Orleans.
Yes, I will cross my fingers. So a few other folks. Nick Wexler was a regular on Revenge. I think that's the thing that he's probably best known for. He was also on several episodes of Chicago PD and, again, the reboot of Dynasty. And most recently a show called Shades of Blue. He hasn't done anything yet this year that I could find.
It's Shades of Blue, a cop show.
I think so.
That's what I would guess.
Sounds like it.
I mean, yeah. Or it's like a very specific show about Picasso's blue period.
That's also possible.
Or that one Eiffel 65 song.
Last but not least, Colin Hanks, as I said, has done several episodes of Drunk History. He also voices Tom in the animated series Talking Tom and Friends, which I am not in the correct demographic for, but Aliza is, apparently?
He's Talking Tom?
Yes.
Okay, so I know Talking Tom because I work with toddlers.
Great. Okay. That
Talking
makes sense.
Tom, I don't know if it's a show now. It sounds like it's a show.
It's a show.
So Talking Tom originally was just this computer app.
I don't think he's the voice of the app.
Okay, it's this cat that you can like interact with, and it repeats what you say. So if you talk, it listens, it records, it repeats it in like a funny cat voice, and it's very popular among toddlers, at least toddlers with autism, since those are most of the toddlers I know. And it's really awesome. And Talking Tom was the original one, but then there's also Ben, who's a dog. There's Angela, who's a white cat, who's more feminine. There's a parrot called Pierre. So yeah, that's pretty crazy to me.
Aliza, I'm waiting for your spin-off podcast where you just tell us about little kids shows.
I could talk for many, many hours. Did you know that there are viral videos among toddlers?
Oh, that's kind of upsetting.
I believe it.
Great.
I'll tell you about them another time.
Colin Hanks also starred in Life in Pieces, which just finished up its 4th and final season. He had an uncredited role in the movie Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle, and he's set to return in Jumanji: The Next Level, which will be out in December of 2019. And that one stars Danny Glover and Danny DeVito, along with the cast of The Rock, Kevin Hart, Karen Gillan, and Jack Black.
Interesting.
I thought that movie looked funny, but I never saw it.
Oh, it was really cute.
Yeah, I probably will see it. I thought it looked cute.
So I think one of the legacies of Roswell and other shows that were on at this time is the whole concept of internet fandom, which, again, was not specific to Roswell, but because of the time in which it aired, this was a time when we were first having these chat boards, and some of the actors on Roswell would get onto them. So these are places where fans could come together online. And so this was the first time that you had a really accessible way for people from all over the country and all over the world to come together and fan out. And so Roswell had these really successful campaigns to save the show, where fans were sending in bottles of Tabasco, amongst other things. And so I think that's one of the legacies of just this time period. And because of when Roswell aired, it was a part of the beginning of this big movement towards modern day fandom. And that is continued today by people like us who make podcasts about 20-year-old shows.
Yes.
And who met because of a fandom.
Yes.
We met through being fans of Buffy and buffering.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's definitely something we are very familiar with. Mm-hmm. Nerds like us.
The internet is such a great place to find other nerds.
It really is. And, people talk about, social media and being on Facebook too much. And sure, there are, downsides to social media, always. But I've gotten a lot of benefit from Facebook, personally. I've met a lot of really great people. And, it's a way to keep in touch with people who don't live near me. And to find other people with similar interests or identities.
Yeah.
It's a special
place. When I was in high school, I had literally one other friend who watched Buffy with me, and nobody else cared. But I was part of a, email newsletter that, the other writers on the newsletter were people I met through the internet, the early days of the internet, and in chat boards, all of that stuff.
Yeah, my first experience with fandoms was definitely Harry Potter. And I was in middle school, so 2001, 2002, 3. Coming home every day, going on the Harry Potter chat boards.
Mm-hmm. And I only watched teen shows starting when I was 30, and that's also when I got into the idea of fandoms. So I came a little late to the game.
Everyone has their own journey.
Yeah. I think in 1999, I was only using the internet to listen to the radio when I was at home and to download albums from Napster before we realized it was illegal.
Oh, I knew it was illegal, and I was still doing it.
Yeah, I did it after we realized it was illegal, too.
No, I wasn't.
Of course I wasn't.
Listening.
I wasn't downloading anything on Napster.
I never have.
And I never will.
Well, I think you would be hard-pressed to do it today.
Yeah.
On Napster specifically.
On Napster, yeah.
Yeah, because it doesn't exist anymore. Well, hello, Pod Squad. This is LaRena just popping in with a little note of some exciting information that has come to light since we recorded this episode on Sunday, October 6th, 2019, which was the 20th anniversary of Roswell. It was announced that Jason Behr would be returning to the new reboot to play a secret character in a multi-episode arc. So that's some exciting news for Jason Behr, even though we didn't have anything exciting to share about him when we recorded this episode last week.
Thanks for joining us for this week's minisode where we celebrate the 20th anniversary of Roswell. We're excited to keep the fandom going with you, so if you have any memories of where you were during the debut or during any other point that you want to share with us, hit us up, let us know.
And next minisode, which will be airing in 2 weeks, we will be sorting the characters of Roswell into Hogwarts houses. So join us in 2 weeks for that minisode.
But first, join us next week on Tuesday when we go over Roswell Season 1, Episode 6, 285 South. In the meantime, please subscribe, rate, and review, and tell us how you think we're doing.
You can find us always at roswellhotsauce.com, where you'll find meticulous show notes from co-host Lisa, as well as lots of other great information. You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram at roswellhotsauce.
And you can email your memories to us or any other questions that you may have to roswellhotsauce@gmail.com.
Until next time, you can catch us on the chat boards.